today is the third week, or the third lesson for Intro to Game Design or Game Development. Um, and so we are going to get started. So, there we go. Okay. So, okay, there we go. So our outline for today is going to be, first we're going to talk about genres and understanding genre. The second part is talking about the player, so that is, whoever is playing your game, we need to understand what they're doing. The next thing we're going to talk about is the mechanics of the game, and then some game design tips, and we'll still do the activity. Maybe someone's watching. If not, then it's something you could do at home. And so, yeah, let's get started. So first, games are classified into genres. Obviously, we have so many genres of games that that people can make. Whether it's horror, it's RPG, it's FPS. There's just so many games, and you have to know what kind of game you're making, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm gonna make a game. You have to know kind of what the background of the game is, what kind of play style you want to do, what kind of, even how the game looks determines what kind of genre it can be. And the most important thing is playing the game of that genre. So, for instance, let's just say you want to make an RPG game, but you've never played an RPG game, or you've never, maybe watched someone else play an RPG game. Then that's kind of not the best, because you, as a player, you don't understand what it's like to play the game, what kind of mechanics go into it. And in order to create a game of a specific genre, you have to understand it yourself from a player perspective. And so now we're going to talk about some genres that are very popular among game developers, especially ones who are just starting out. So the first one is role-playing games. Now, role-playing games is a game where you become the character of a fictional world. This is similar to Skyrim and Final Fantasy, which are both very popular games. Usually these games have very, very big story arcs and lore. So, for instance, Skyrim is very similar to, I guess, Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, I've played it, but it's quite similar. There's different factions, there's different, stories you can do. You can join, you can be a different species, you can be part of it, all kinds of different, the name blinks me. But yeah, it's very similar to Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played Final Fantasy myself, but definitely lots of people love it. Some people hate certain ones, but it's always very known. And also, the games are focused on character development. So a lot of times, Skyrim, that's the game that I've played. In the beginning, you're being carded on as a prisoner, and then if you haven't played the game, I don't know what to tell you. You're being carded as a prisoner, and then all of a sudden a dragon comes in and destroys the village you're in, and then you run away. So it starts out, you start as a prisoner, and then you can progress through the game and become this very powerful mage or whatever you want to be, and Fusrada people. I don't know. It's very immersive. So you can do so many things in Skyrim. It's so big. It's so open world. And yeah, that's usually what RPG games are. Next one is first-person shooters. So obviously the title kind of explains it itself. It is a genre where you are in the perspective of a first person, kind of like you are yourself. You are first person. And usually first-person shooters do involve a lot of action gameplay, which that can include guns or maybe other kinds of weapons, maybe bows and arrows, something along those lines. The example I like to give, these are some examples. I think one of them is Half-Life. I think one of them is Half-Life. I don't know. But the example I like to give is Borderlands 2, my favorite game. because it's an FPS game, but it has a very different feeling to it. Yes, there's still guns, but that's pretty much, and yes, you shoot people, but that's pretty much kind of, it kind of deviates from all the other FPS games because the characters are just hilarious. The story is amazing, and there's all the side quests and stuff are super fun. So I think it's just a really great twist on an FPS, because usually FPSs, they tend to be a little bit more realistic. They're based off of real life events. Like in Call of Duty, a lot of the time it's like military stuff, or like World War II, World War One, or like a lot of times it's post-apocalyptic. So there's still like some reality to it. But Borderlands 2 just goes like, nope, we're gonna do something completely different. So you don't always have to like deviate towards what's most common. If you have an idea for a game that's unique and different to all the other games in that genre, then go for it. All right, next one is platformers. So the most common platformer obviously is Mario. So that's the one that people turn to the most, And so platformers just make a player go through a series of levels, and usually they have to go through obstacles. Usually platformers, the main objective or the main mechanic is just jumping, and um, and then there might be some other elements that can be implemented, like puzzles in action. A great example I like to give, some of them are up there, but one of mine is Mark of the Ninja. It's a very good game. I would suggest playing it if you do enjoy platformers. It is a stealth platformer game, and you're just a ninja that's trying to get to. I'm not gonna spoil it because it's too good to spoil. Just play it if you want to know. But it's a really great game. It's a really great, uh, again, like a good deviation from platformers where you're it's a different kind of feeling. So I think it's a great game to look into. All right. So next, we are going to talk about the player. So the player is the actual main character of the game. The player's you, the person, or someone else playing your game. And so each player obviously is going to have a different taste or skill for games. So you have to, whenever you're making a game, you have to consider, the audience you're trying to appeal to. And that's something that's really hard sometimes because, yes, you always want to try and appeal to like the widest audience possible, but at the same time, maybe your game specifically, you want to do something that's for a specific audience, and that's fine. Like as long as you really put in the effort and know what the audience wants, and like you get feedback and stuff, then that's definitely something you can do. The biggest thing is that you always have to keep the player engaged. So when you're making these kind of games, you want to make sure that when you cater to the audience, that they stay engaged, that they stay interested in the game. And players, obviously, they're humans, so they have a limit to how much they can play. Sometimes you play hours upon hours of the same game. Depends on the person. Sometimes they'll get bored of the game. Maybe it's the same repetitive thing, or it's just not. No one wants to play it again. And games can get frustrating, and you don't want your player, yes, like obviously in most games, 99% of games, someone's gonna get frustrated and just quit the game. But you don't want that to be the majority of your players. So you want to make sure that your game is interesting, but not interesting and playable, but not like super hard where like already in the first level you die, like Dark Souls 3. I can't get past the first boss, and I haven't played that game since. So I'll try it again eventually. But like if you don't have like a high skill cap for Dark Souls, then whoops. Anyway, let's go to types of players. So most of the time when you're creating a game, you do when if you want to do it to a wider audience, then you want to probably think about the audience as casual players. So they will take their time to learn the game. They pretty much want to just to play the game to enjoy the game, and so usually that's what most companies will do is they'll cater to a casual gamer. And yes, there might be elements of the game that will cater to maybe people who are want to get more involved in the game or maybe do better in the game, but most of the time they want to make sure that everyone can play it and that everyone can enjoy it. Um, Quick learners. So these are people who understand things very quickly and can play the game with ease. So I would like to kind of think of this as a game like StarCraft. StarCraft is a very like complicated, very micromanaging game. And if you're not a quick learner, then it can get really frustrating really easily. It has a very high skill level, but like quick learners who just instantly get the game in 1 second, they will probably like StarCraft because it does take like a lot. Once you quickly learn the basic stuff, then it's slowly but surely you can learn all the other like complicated mechanics that come with StarCraft. Achievers. Um, Achievers are people who set goals and want to get to them. So usually I like to think of achievers as people who want to 100% a game, meaning like they get all the achievements on Steam, they get all the achievements in the game, like every single thing they want to get, they're gonna get it. And that's something a lot of games do have. Some of them don't, but a lot of games do have like those achievements that like only the people who will play this game a lot will know how to get it or will be able to get it. And next, explorers. This is again, I'll give the example of Skyrim, where you want to try and do the most out of the game as possible, because in Skyrim you don't play through it once, you don't play through it twice. You can play through it so many times and do so many different things, because already in the beginning in Skyrim there's like 10 different species or classes you can play as, and that determines a lot of things in the future of the game. So Explorers is trying to find out the most about the game, and I think Skyrim is another great example for that. Alright, the mechanics. So the mechanics is just the playground of the designing. You want to pretty much just take whatever ideas you have and just share them with everyone. But you want to make sure that those ideas are possible. You don't want to throw out an idea that's completely irrelevant or like doesn't make sense, because then you're just kind of wasting time and kind of delving into something that might not be possible. Make sure you test your features. So it's really easy to just like think of an idea and be like, oh yeah, that's gonna be a great idea, but then you want to make sure that you can actually make the idea come true. You want to make sure that you can implement it. So before you start getting into all the nitty-gritty stuff, make sure that at the most basic level of this mechanic, it is possible to have this feature. Also make sure that you are ready to have ideas be thrown out the window. This means that even if you have this amazing game and you get this amazing mechanic for the game and it works and it does really well and it's like perfect, it may not be perfect for the game itself. So sometimes there's maybe a certain jump mechanic or an attack mechanic that's really cool, but it wouldn't work for the kind of game that you're going for. So you have to kind of always think about what the feature does and what the mechanic does, and you want to have the ability to like let go of those things in case it does not work out in the end. And also, this seems kind of weird, but keep it ugly. This means that designs aren't meant to be perfect, because you are gonna like throw in and throw out designs all the time, and you want to make sure that when you're testing out these mechanics, that they work and that you know that they do well for the game, and then you start polishing them, because you don't want to put in all that work for a feature and then find out that you have to throw it all out. All right. Next is some game design tips. Bleh. Start with a premise. So you want to just create. You want to have a concept around your idea. Um, you don't want to just like throw out random ideas and put them together, kind of like in the game spawn game. That usually doesn't work. Sometimes magically it does, but usually it doesn't. Usually it's based on like a concept that someone's already kind of built around. And um, make sure you when you're giving out an idea, you want to go through each step of the design process. Um, is um, is this game feasible? Are the mechanics well aligned? Is the idea with the art not the art? Is the idea just in general something that would be fun if the game is even if the game is if the game already kind of exists, like what kind of new thing are you bringing to it? And don't overwhelm your audience. This means that you want to make sure your game flows at a consistent pace. So, like for instance, in a horror game, right? You could have like, in the beginning, it's like really quiet and you're creeping up on things, and then like a bajillion things just pop up in your face and it overwhelms you. Like, obviously it's a horror game, but you don't want it to become very expected, like and just like scare after scare after scare after scare. It's like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. You want to keep like the tension there all the time and like make people kind of like shake when they're playing the game, right? So, all right. So we're gonna talk about a basic game that's that's very popular among many people. If you don't know it, I don't know what to tell you, but yeah. So tic-tac-toe. What is tic-tac-toe? Well, it is a game that uses I guess a grid, a 3x3 grid, if you want to call it a grid. Anyway, and the way we analyze it is, are the instructions easy to understand? Yes, you either are X or O, and your goal is to get 3 of your symbol in a row, whether it's across, uh, up and down, or left to right. Um, and then, what are the win conditions? I just talked about it. It's 3 in a row. So, and then the question is, why do most matches end up in a tie? It's because most of the time people are able to figure out exactly where someone can put 3 in a row, and it's very easy to block them off. And then some little fun facts. Tic-tac-toe was first played in the 1st century BC, and the Romans invented the game, and it was originally called 3 pebbles at a time. But I'm not going to pronounce that other word because I'm probably going to butcher it. Alright, so I don't know if there's anyone there. If not, oh well. But this is kind of like if you want to do an at-home kind of activity. Take the game of tic-tac-toe and change or take away one of the rules. And you want to, what I would like you to do is take the current game and redesign it to make it a more interesting game, because it's a very basic game. It was very interesting as a kid, but today it's just like you're playing it if you're like bored in class and you're not paying attention or something. So you want to, when you're making these changes though, you want to make sure that they are as little as possible, because you don't want to have to like do heavy testing on it, because even like on a typical game like tic-tac-toe, there could be a lot of testing that can be done, a lot of scenarios just from one change. Alrighty, so if you do come up with a cool idea for tic-tac-toe, let me know. Share it on Discord or somewhere else. That would be really cool. Some references for you guys. If you would like to learn more about just this slide in general, just like the contents of it. If you have any questions, let me know. I am always on Discord. I am Rubik's on Discord. I like Rubik's Cubes. That's why. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you next week.